Justice League the movie is pretty much here, and despite being a Marvel fan at heart, first and foremost, I am a comic book fan. And having both companies have really good movies is healthy for the industry as a whole. Because of that, I really want Justice League to be a good movie despite my actual thoughts. When looking at the other DCEU movies, I couldn't really find one that I really liked. And I thought, what do all these movies have in common? And when I really thought about it, I thought there really isn't something that they have in common. More so, there's something that they all lack. And I think what that is, it isn't jokes or a lighthearted nature, which is what most people say. No, I believe what they lack is a character arc. When it comes to the hero's journey, which is an archetypal storytelling formula, a character arc is most times featured as a way to showing growth for the protagonist, which in turn allows the audience to connect with them more easily. This is done by a character beginning the story in one way, they begin to transform gradually due to changing developments in the story, and then when the story ends, the character is no longer the same person in one way or another. I believe the lack of this is at the heart of the DCEU movie problems. And if we look at the current movies that they have in the universe closely, I think you'll begin to see what I'm talking about. Let's start with the Big Blue Boy Scout himself and the movie that started the DCEU, Man of Steel. Now, this movie begins by establishing the personality of the protagonist. We see Clark saving some people in an oil rig, showing that he is a pretty selfless person. However, in another scene, he's in a bar, and we see that when he's pushed too far, he does have a mean streak as he crumples up this prick's car, or truck rather, like it's a sheet of loose leaf paper, basically. Now, throughout the movie, we see flashbacks about Clark's father always encouraging Clark not to reveal himself by helping others with his powers, but Clark does the opposite by saving the bus full of kids, and if he had it his way, he would have saved his father from the storm. There's nothing in the course of the film that presents a challenge for Clark's decision making to save people with his powers. By the time the climax of the film happens, I mean, my jaw was on the floor like I think everyone else was when Clark killed Zod. I thought to myself, this is not Superman. But after watching the film again, I realized that this is this film's Superman, and he's been this way the entire movie. He defended the Earth from Zod because he has a heart of gold. But if you push him too far, he becomes overly aggressive and he can do something like break Zod's neck. Just like in the beginning of the film, he saved the people on the oil rig because he has a heart of gold, but push him too far and he becomes overly aggressive and he does something like destroy that guy's truck. Sure, he'll speak to the military and even turn himself in because he has that heart of gold, but push him too far and spy on him when he doesn't want to, and then he'll get overly aggressive and smash your expensive satellite. His character never changes. When I didn't like Man of Steel, I thought it was because I didn't like the decision Superman made, but it turns out that's not the case. It's not the decisions that he made. I was more upset that there was no personal growth in his character. If Superman heeded his father's words and never got involved with anyone, never saving anyone, just hiding in the background for most of the film, and then something very bad happens, let's say a friend of his, we're just going to call Jake, gets killed, this can become the emotional weight that makes Superman oppose Zod by saying, I will never let there be another Jake. And this will complete his character arc, and we'll see him grow as a person and show the audience just why he makes the decisions that he does. My favorite superhero growing up was always Spider Man and continues to be to this day. I just thought it was really cool to have a superhero dealing with everyday school stuff the way I was. However, Spider Man's origin perhaps illustrates the quintessential character arc in comic books. Peter Parker, not having much money or much of anything to call his own, gets bitten by a radioactive spider, giving him the strength and speed proportional of a spider. Everyone knows his origin story. He uses these abilities to fight in the ring and get paid to do it. When the promoter doesn't pay Peter the amount that he was promised and is robbed, Peter has the ability to stop the robber, but because he felt like he was cheated, he allowed the robber to escape. Peter's coming from a completely selfish standpoint. He looks at the robbery as a promoter getting his just desserts, and he isn't going to help. Once his Uncle Ben dies, he discovers that the killer is a criminal. Peter tracks down, the criminal, trying to bring him to justice, which is a good thing. That's something that, would benefit society, but he's doing it for a selfish reason. When he finally does catch the criminal and finds out that it's the same robber that he could have stopped earlier, This is the realization that truly makes him become Spider-Man. From now on, he doesn't do things selfishly. He does only selfless acts and puts other people first because he believes that that works towards the greater good. He ends the story being a completely different person from where he began the story. And it really is a timeless story, and it shows Peter's growth into the hero that we now know. Now, ask yourself, really ask yourself, does Superman go through something similar in Man of Steel? The answer is no, he doesn't. And in fact, I don't think any of the DCEU characters really do go through something similar. Now, I can already see the comments. I'm guessing someone's thinking, well, Batman does in Batman versus Superman, but his change of heart happens so suddenly, so out of nowhere, without a shred of buildup. And more importantly than that, he doesn't go through any growth and change as a person. He just gets a new goal, which his goal is gathering heroes instead of trying to kill Superman. Wonder Woman really looked like she was going to have a good character arc, but at the last moment, they kind of pulled the rug out from under us. Throughout the Wonder Woman movie, Diana is convinced that mankind is inherently good and only does evil while under the influence of Ares, the god of war. In one really great scene, Steve Trevor tells her that maybe it's just mankind. Perhaps we're just a mixed bag, capable of both really good as well as evil. And I thought this was going to be an amazing way to take the wide-eyed, naive character of Wonder Woman and make her come to terms that the world isn't just black and white. But instead, it turns out that Ares really was manipulating these events and gives her something to punch in the climax of the film. Now, I believe in Wonder Woman's mind, she was right. So why would her opinion shift in any way? There's no growth as far as her perspective goes, and she believes the same things she did at the end of the story that she did at the beginning of the story. Suicide Squad is no different. It seemed like they focused a lot of the character spots on Deadshot, Harley, and Diablo. Now, of the three, Diablo has the most growth, being very much a pacifist throughout the movie, and at the very end, finally becoming violent again. There's no growth for Harley at all, so let's not even go there. And the same can be said for Deadshot, really. He begins the film loving his daughter and doing whatever is needed to take care of her, as well as really hating Batman. Now, at the end, he still hates Batman. We see this when Enchantress reveals their hidden desires, and his is to be the one to finally kill Batman. So nothing has changed there. And at the end, he still does whatever is needed to take care of his daughter, even if it is within the confines of Amanda Waller. This is why I feel the characters in DC movies fall flat. When people say audiences only like the Marvel movies because they're lighthearted and full of jokes, I don't really think that's the case. I think it's because people grow to like these characters because we get to see them grow. We see Tony Stark go from taking great pride in being a weapons dealer so that other people can fight to disbanding his source of income and then becoming, a person on the front lines himself. We slowly see Thor go from a brash, arrogant warrior who thought that his worth was defined by the fact that he can wield this hammer to a man who stands up to incredible odds despite having the weapon he thought gave him worth. Hell, throughout the movies, we've seen Loki grow from wanting to best Thor to becoming an ally, and despite staying true to his deceptive nature, um, he has a change of character to stay by Thor's side when normally he would have abandoned him. And for those of you who saw Ragnarok, you know what I'm talking about. This is why people like the Marvel movies. It isn't because they're just funny, though that does help. um, but it's because we get to see Peter Quill go from a loner to a team player. We get to see Black Widow go from a hired killer, only loyal to her employer, to become fiercely loyal to her friends. We get to see Stephen Strange go from a science-minded skeptic to the Sorcerer Supreme. Character arcs. And this is something I'm really, really hoping against hope will be displayed in Justice League. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But those are just this guy's opinions. Thank you so much for watching. Do not get beat up out there, you guys. And as always, peace.